and I am the director at the Round Lake Area Library. I'd like to introduce tonight's presenters that are joining us, and I am going pretty much in order as they appear on my screen. So this is kind of randomized, not picking anyone in particular. But we have Greg Formica, who is the chief of the Greater Round Lake Area Fire Protection District. Thank you, Greg. We have Ann Richmond, who is the Round Lake Area Library Board President. Thank you, Ann. Don Mendoza, Superintendent of Round Lake Area School District 116. Thank you very much, Don, for being with us. Okay. Hello. Oh, mute. Okay, you're unmuted. Are you coming through?
Now I am.
Okay.
Yep, I think you had me muted.
So. Okay, sorry about that. I think Marina unmuted.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay. So tonight's presentation and discussion will be recorded. Marina, can you please go ahead and start that recording if you haven't already? And this will record the video as well as the chat.
Already started.
All right, thank you. Tonight, all participants will be muted, but our speakers will be unmuted. Anybody that would like to submit a question, we ask that you please do that through the chat. And the chat button is on the lower portion of your screen if you're on a computer. And that will bring up a little window and you can send notes to any one of us. We'll all see that and then we'll read your question aloud. If I've not yet mentioned it, Mayor of Round Lake Park, Linda Lucassen, she will be joining us momentarily. They have a board meeting this evening and she's going to come over as soon as she is done with that. So I'm going to give a very brief introduction from the library and then I'm going to hand it over and we'll do this kind of how we did the introductions in that order with Greg, Ann, and Don. So as I mentioned, I am with the Round Lake Area Library and the purpose of tonight's meeting is to discuss with all of you some of the things that we're working on. Just to let you guys know, the library has been very involved with doing a number of online programs, interactive programs. We plan to continue those actually for several months, even when the stay-at-home order is loosened up to the point where everyone starts going back to normal lives. Our staff have created tons and tons of face masks. I think they are at the 400 mark, 500 mark. I know Marina.
We're up to 660 given out.
160 we've given out. Okay,
yes.
Wow. Dang, that's awesome. Thank you. We've also started an online chat service, so anybody that has any questions, whether it's about how to use the unemployment site or what's happening in the community, you're welcome to submit those questions to the online chat service that is on our website, and one of our library staff will get back with you. We've added quite a few online resources to help, some educational, some more cultural, and some more just life enrichment. For example, we've added access to the site called Creative Bug, and Creative Bug is something that provides people access to craft information or how-tos, things like that. And though I have not participated much in it, the folks who have told me it's wonderful. There will be, I'm sure, more details coming out from all of us as we go ahead and talk about what's happening in our respective organizations. So without delaying this anymore, I'm going to ask Greg if you have kind of an update from the fire department, and then we'll move on from there.
We're out there still 24/7. When we first got notified that, we started this first, started becoming part of our day-to-day life, we noticed a drop off in the number of calls that we were getting, but we're right back to average or slightly above average call response wise. But we're still maintaining our force. We have pretty good supply of personal protective equipment, and we're still out there responding every day. So we did have to cut back on a lot of our we stopped a lot of our fire inspections, at least for the time being. We stopped a lot of our public education. We're not trying to have too many visitors in the fire station. We've kind of, locked that down to just try and keep the spread of anything, coming into the building and infecting any of our personnel. So.
You guys are doing okay and everyone's pretty healthy?
Yep. So far, so good. Knock on wood.
Good, good. I'm glad to hear that. Thank you. Okay, Anne, I have you next on my screen. So,
All right. Well, Jim and Marina are the real force behind the library making everything work. But since the shutdown order, we at the library have tried to extend as many digital services as possible. And we have had some great success with the Facebook Live videos that show the how-to in the world. I've stumbled on a couple by accident, just thumbing through Facebook randomly throughout the day, and then quickly got sucked into the program. So I can see why those are very popular. Even the children's books have been a lot of fun to just sit and watch and listen to. So I think we're learning some things now that the library will continue to do, even when everything opens up and goes back to normal. So Jim and Marina have a lot more information they can share about the ins and outs, but if any of you do not use the digital services at the library, please jump on that bandwagon. You can check a book out at 3 a.m. if you want to. It's fantastic.
very cool. Thank you. All right, Dr. Don Mendoza, Superintendent of the Round Lake Area School District 116. How is it going with you?
It's good, different, I would say. It has been rapid. I can't believe it's been 8 weeks since the so we are obviously honoring social distancing. We really been a collaborative effort on the part of the board, the teachers, the administrators, bus drivers, TAs. I mean, we really have all come together to try to make things as best as possible for our families. The one thing I would say, you may not even be aware of this, but we have served, I believe we're over 110,000 meals since this started. We serve food at 6 of our attendance centers for between 8 and 11, and it's curbside pickup. And so we feel really, really good about that. That's something I think one of our board members said at our meeting last night. It's another thing that our families don't have to worry about. So, but it's, it's been challenging in the sense that it's just so different, and we've had to move very, very fast in some areas to make sure that our kids have what they need. About 3 weeks ago, about 3 weeks ago, I kind of knew the extended school closure would go to the end of the year, and we mobilized our team and deployed 3,000 devices in 2 days to our elementary kiddos because we felt like having them working on packets the rest of the year was not appropriate. And so all of our kids have access to technology. We've actually did an inventory, a survey of families in need with internet access, and we've been providing internet access through some of our own supports, and then helping our families navigate how to get it. So we feel really good about where we're at. But believe it or not, we're already starting to plan for the fall, like right now. So that's kind of where we are, and everything's being done digitally. So
I know that I have actually a couple of follow-up questions for you that some of our staff have asked, and I know that some of our patrons have kind of been hinting at. So the summer meals program, that's a big one. Last year, the library started offering free summer meals, and we were seeing anywhere from 80 to 100 kids a day on various days. We had planned on doing that again with Northern Illinois Food Bank, and I see that Scott Jewett, who's a director at the Northern Illinois Food Bank and also a trustee for the Round Lake Area School District, he's with us tonight. So we'll put him on the spot in a little bit. But we don't think that we are going to start our summer meals program until sometime this summer. We would have started it June 1st, but we understand you guys are you providing these through the end of June, and then are you also going to extend that on up to the start of the next school year?
So we historically have provided summer meals through our community eligibility program during the month of June, because that's when we've run summer school. So the first part, and we're right now averaging about 3,300 meals a day, roughly. So first of all, in June, yes, we will absolutely be serving meals in the same way we're doing now, between 8 and 11 at 6 attendance centers. And then we've gotten initial information from the state board that they are, we believe they're going to mandate food service in the summer. July and August, rather, to feed our families, even in the month of July. Our big question is whether or not we're going to be reimbursed by the state, which is normally what happens in the month of June and even now, which is consistent with what happens during the school years. So everything we're hearing preliminarily is that we will be reimbursed for the meals in July and August. But I think assuming we can afford it, regardless of whether or not we're reimbursed, I think our interest is to try to feed our
I think my internet may have gone a little bit slow, kind of cut out there. But Don, I think you got done with that answer, right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. My internet just got a little wonky for a second. Okay, so as I mentioned, the library, we were going to start June 1st when we heard that you guys might be doing this for the rest of the summer. We wondered if we would also do that, and we can certainly catch up with you offline and discuss in more detail. But we didn't want to put any extra pressure on the Northern Illinois Food Bank. We also didn't want to take away anything that the school district is doing, because you've already got a plan in place, and it's obviously working very well. But thank you for that answer. That helps us quite a lot. And speaking of the fall, so some of the rumors that I have heard, and these really are rumors, and this comes from friends of mine in other states as well. They'll say something like, well, hey, school isn't going to start until fall. Well, fall might be October or November. I've heard some people really get crazy and say that school years for next school year may not start until January of 21. Have you guys got any kind of a start date lined up for fall semester?
So the first thing I would say is we do have a regular calendar approved. But if any of you haven't seen it yet, literally this afternoon, the governor released Restore Illinois. It's a 10-page and we have been asked to plan for multiple scenarios.
Okay.
We've been asked to plan we will be prepared for full e-learning. So if the kids can't come back, we'll be prepared for that. Biggest challenge is if we're allowed to facilitate a partial opening, a soft opening, a blended opening, which could be a staggered schedule. It could be some kids coming on some days and some on others. So we are starting the plan for all three of those scenarios now. And so we're really not going to be making decisions on speculation. We're literally going to start planning for all three, probably in a way that allows us to pivot appropriately once we know for sure what's going to happen. So we are taking our guidance from the state. And so I think, and what's interesting though, is if you read that reopening plan, different areas of the state may be treated differently. Mm-hmm. So, you could have, it looked like an area of the state in phase 4 where another one could be in phase 2. So I think given where we are, I don't want to speculate, but we're in phase 2. I think the whole state is. So we're going to be ready for everything, and we're going to do the absolute best we can in consult with the state, with the health officials, and obviously we want to keep everybody safe.
Okay, thank you. That really helps us out. Again, we just weren't sure what was happening. And again, I know that everyone is in the same boat. I was just telling Ann a few minutes ago before the meeting started that, you know, the library's already created plans for opening limited services. And then Marina sent me a text about an hour and a half ago, and she said, "Oh, by the way, did you just see the governor's new amendment?" And I'm like, "Oh, okay, let's take a look at this." And so we know that it does change. It seems like every couple of days. So I understand that. I'm going to keep asking questions of tonight's participants. But if you have a question, again, I ask that you submit those through chat service. The chat button should be on the lower portion of your screen. And I've got the chat window up here, and I know folks that are participating elsewhere, they do the same. So we'll all see various questions. So Greg, what do you guys think will happen for the fire department over the next couple of months? You had mentioned that calls, you know, when this first happened, they went down dramatically because people were staying at home. But now you say you're kind of increasing to about the level that you had. With summer coming on and all of us being outside, what do you think will actually happen this year compared to, say, other years?
I still feel like, you know, like I said, we're back to about our normal number of calls. We don't, you know, we transport a couple of maybe one, maybe two people who suspect they might have a coronavirus or something, you know, along those lines. But we don't, it hasn't been overwhelming to us, those types of calls. It hasn't really been a big impact on our responses, but you know, the responses are more stressful. You know, we treat every call like the people might have it now. So every call, the crew gets in full PPE, and so you know that can be a little draining on them. Adds a lot to the incident and what's going on, but I you know, based on what we're seeing, we're probably going to come in at about, you know, last year we did 4,800 calls, and I believe we're going to come in somewhere between 4,800 and 5,000 emergency responses this year again. So you know, like I said, it's a lot more work for the crews. It's a lot, you know, a lot different. It's a lot more stressful, but you know, I feel like we're still seeing a lot of the same type of stuff that we saw before now. So, we do have, you know, I would say that the severity of some of the calls are going up. It seems like people are waiting a little longer. They're trying to avoid going to the hospital. They're trying to, you know, hold off and hope that they get better rather than be transported where they kind of, I think they see you know, I think people feel like it's dangerous to go to the hospital, that if you go to the hospital, you're going to get sick. I don't necessarily know if that's true or not, but there sure is a perception out there that they want to hold off and avoid going as much as possible. So we have seen what, you know, some of the severity of the calls has gone up a little bit, but the number has stayed about average for last year.
Okay, that's interesting. The severity has gone up. Have you seen? And again, I know this is definitely probably pulling a little bit outside of the stats that you have, but do you know, like with traffic patterns, traffic accidents, things like that? Have you seen any change in that?
Yeah, we have. You know, the same time last year, the same first quarter of last year, on the average, we did about 12 car accidents a month. And for March and April, I believe we had just 2 car accidents through that whole time period. So there certainly is definitely a decrease in the amount of traffic that's out on the streets. And of course that will decrease the number of car accidents that you have. So yeah, we did notice quite a decrease in that. So.
That's good. That's good. Okay, I see a couple more people have joined us, and I will just let you guys know that we are happy to take questions through our online chat through Zoom. And I've received a question from Michael Francisco. Mike asked if there is, he's asking on behalf of the soccer organization, the Avon Youth Soccer Organization. Michael's also a board member at the school district, so he's not asking on behalf of the school. He wants to know if the Park District has figured out any plans for reopening, as the governor has restated the opening and updated that. So I can tell you what I do know, which is not a lot. But I have spoken to Bob Newport a couple of times over the past few days, and he has shared his concern that there has been, it's been a little difficult to get some solid guidance from the government on what they can and cannot open, and whether they should or should not have a certain number of people within a certain area. And I'll admit this is getting way outside of my level of expertise when we talk about park districts. But I know that Bob and the Park District, they wonder about all of their programs, when they can restart them and how they will implement them. So the thing that I can tell you for certain is that they are definitely discussing their reopening process and what that will end up looking like. But what I don't know is when that will take effect. And to tell you the truth, I'm not sure they've got all of that pinned down yet either. Now, I know that with Don and Greg and Ann, you guys talk to a lot of folks throughout the community. Have you heard anything?
I haven't heard anything about sports activities and what the plan is.
No, I haven't either. I do know that there was, I was part of one conversation, and one of the things that they kind of, looked at as a model for starting to unroll some of the restrictions was to have some of those sort of youth sports activities, outside sports activities, be one of the things that they kind of roll out as their in the earlier phases, based on the risk factors that most of the participants would have and the fact that it's outdoors. But I don't know. I have not heard anything that would say, that it was okay, or that there'd be a time for people to start, a good time for people to start. A good resource for that would be, Lake County Health Department could probably give some guidance on when they would expect something like that to start to come out, or if you're going to do it, how to do it the safest way. They're a pretty good resource for those kinds of things.
Okay, good. Thank you. Don or Ann, let's see. Yeah, Ann, you already mentioned it. Just trying to see if anybody else had any updates from them. All right. Let's see. Okay. All right, Don. Anything from your end on any word from the school district? Oh, I'm sorry, from the Park District?
As far as this, no, we have not. I mean,
No. Okay.
I think our focus right now is just because of the amount. I mean, we've got 7,000 kids. Our focus is really we're running two processes parallel. We're managing each day, and while that's going on, we're starting to plan for 3 months down the road. So I'm not really sure.
No, not trying to put you on the spot. I just know we all talk to a lot of people, so sometimes we hear stuff. Okay, one other comment has come in, and this comment comes from Robin Albee, who works at the library. She said that she'd like to tell Dr. Mendoza that she thanks Mrs. Goers, who is a second grade teacher at Ellis and is amazing. She's gone above and beyond helping me with my granddaughter's distance learning. Thank you for having such wonderful and caring people. All right, fantastic. Oops. Oh man, Don's video dropped out on my screen. Oh man, just when the light shines on you. Oh shoot. Well, I'm sure he'll try to come back here. Let's see here. And Michael Francisco, thank you very much for responding. And Don, video's back. All right. So did all of that note come through then for you, Don?
I missed it.
Oh, all right. I'll just reread. Robin put this on the screen, but I'll reread it to you. Robin says that she'd like to thank Mrs. Goers, who is a second grade teacher at Ellis and is amazing. She has gone above and beyond helping me with my granddaughter's distance learning. She wants to thank you for having such wonderful and caring people.
Well, I will personally deliver that message to the principal and the teacher. Our teachers have done a really, really good job during this in a really unique situation. I think for us, we have protocols in place to make sure we're keeping kids engaged. And so it's been just a really collaborative effort. Our Teachers Association has been exceptionally supportive, and we have the same shared interest in making sure our kids are supported during this time, not just from an academic because this is actually having an effect on our kids.
I'm not sure.
I think Don keeps freezing.
Yeah,
There might be an internet connection.
it probably is. Sometimes Zoom just gets a little goofy. Still there, Don? Oh, shoot. And now he has dropped off. Nuts.
Dropped completely.
Okay. Well, when he comes back, I'm sure we can hear back from him. Get some more details. What other questions are we? What other questions do folks have? Are there anything else? Any other items? Sorry, I'm getting Don's text now telling me he's trying to get back in. So I'm not ignoring everyone. I'm just trying to help him. So. Other questions. So we've got the chief of police here, who obviously has a pretty good handle on local health issues. Oh, I know what I was going to ask you earlier, Greg. You had mentioned something about, your guys, they're obviously getting up in full PPE gear and, they're expecting the worst and things like that. Do you know what capacity is at the hospitals right now? I'm asking more out of curiosity than anything else.
I don't know we transport to, mainly to Condell, but we also go to Lake Forest and the acute center in Grays Lake and NIMC. And so, we transport a few different places. We haven't had any notifications that they're, above capacity and they haven't had to go on bypass status or anything like that. But one interesting place to look at that is the Illinois Department of Public Health. Every day they put hospital statistics on their coronavirus website for the different hospital regions. Our region is region number 10. We're up in the northeast corner. If anybody's interested in looking at that, that's the hospital. Well, that's the region we're part of. Our EMS system is part of McHenry Hospital or NIMC and Woodstock and Harvard Hospital and Good Shepherd. They're in region 9, but our region is region 10. You can go on there and you can see what the availability of hospital beds are, hospital rooms are, ICUs and ventilators. They keep that a pretty good update of that information every day. They put the latest data on, so it's a good resource. As of right now, we haven't had any, like I said, any notifications that the hospitals are near capacity. We haven't had to divert patients. We haven't had to have it. That has not been an issue for us responding into the hospitals. So.
Again, really good news. I mean, that's out of all the crazy stuff that's happening and the bad news we hear, it's good to hear some good news.
Yeah.
Wonderful. All right. Do we have some other questions out there? Oh, we do. Somebody else just sent me one. Michael has to drop out. He just wants to say thank you for everybody joining in. He appreciates the information. And I see we have a few new people who have joined in. I think we have people coming in and out throughout the evening. So just to let everybody know, we are still happy to take some comments through Zoom's chat service. So let us know if there are any questions that you have. If you don't have questions, I am going to start picking out people because I know some of the people that are participating in tonight's meeting. Scott Jewett, Heather Bennett. Let's see, who else is out here? I'm going to Jerry Dietz. I see some other names. All right. Now, Ann, I'm going to bring it back to the library. Are there any suggestions you have for us, or that you'd like to see us do, or highlights from the library? Anything? Don't mean to put you on the spot, but we will.
Yeah, I think you enjoy putting me on the spot.
Oh.
Um, I'm looking forward to the point where we can expand our services a little bit at the library. My parents live in Iowa, and my dad is turning 82 in a couple days, and he really misses his physical books at the library. So he's putting calls out to his friends, like, who's got a book for me to read? He was down in the basement digging through old books that he's read years ago, looking for something. And I tried to encourage him to use his iPad to check out an ebook, but he's like, it's just not the same. It doesn't smell, it doesn't feel the same. So I'm looking forward to the point where we can do at least some kind of services, whether it's a curbside pickup or limited visits back at the library. I think a lot of people miss the services that we provide. Until then, I think we're doing as much as we can with the digital services we have. I know a lot of people are taking advantage of the different services, and I know the staff are working really hard to still be present for the library patrons.
You know, you said something about people wanting the physical books, and that's a given. And one of the things that we've been talking about at the library is when we have patrons return those, how are we going to process those? And I'm going to kind of bring Don in on this one. Don, like how much of the curriculum is done either only online or partially online with some physical materials, and where are you guys going with that in the future?
So our 612, our middle schools and high schools were 1-to-1 before any of this COVID happened. So we were already shifting to digital blended learning. We don't believe all one way is the best. So I think working in the middle, for example, I don't think going fully e-learning is the right way, but I also don't think traditional being in class, sitting in front of a teacher every day is the right way. I think a combination of both is best. And obviously we're not getting that now. And in the fall, we had phased in our 1-to-1 technology. So we were prepared to implement it at the elementary level, but we had to accelerate that because of this COVID situation, which is why we deployed our devices about 3 weeks ago in short order. So we are prepared mentally and philosophically for flexible scheduling, looking at how kids learn differently. And so I think the transition to this was a little bit easier for 612 because they had already started doing it. That makes sense?
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the material that students had out this previous, or I guess the still current school year, their textbooks and things of that sort, are you asking them to hold on to those throughout the summer, or when would you like to collect those?
so we don't, and I don't want to get terribly technical, but we are not a textbook heavy district. We don't lug 5-pound textbooks home with kids. A lot of our curriculum is teacher created, it's aligned to standards, and a lot of it is digital.
Okay.
So essentially, the curriculum is available digitally, and kids can access it, but teachers actually can develop courses through Canvas, which is a student management system. So right now, it's really not about collecting material. We got to figure out when are we going to, if you got to remember, right, our kids, we didn't even get to close the year out this year.
Yeah.
So right now we're figuring out how to close the year, which would allow kids to go into the buildings and gather their belongings. And then we also have to get our devices back. So it's more about those things than it is collecting instructional materials.
Okay, that's interesting. I guess I dated myself a little bit on the textbooks.
That's okay.
Yeah, but no, thanks too for clarifying, that you guys are still working on trying to, bring some of that material back. That is a question actually that's come up in library circles, just kind of across the state actually, to see how you guys are handling it, because we know that you guys have a lot of stuff out, the students do.
Yeah, I just think anytime you are convening large numbers of people to gather things, like when you think about it, 3,000 devices in 2 days we delivered. And we had a system set up, very detailed, very planned, being mindful of social distancing, protective gear, the time, the process, it was all mapped out. You can't, with something like that, you have to put a lot of thought into it. It seems a little bit easy, but it really isn't. And so I think the model we used for our device deployment, we kind of learned some lessons from that, and we'll be using some form or another with all of these other processes that we have to engage in.
3,000 in 2 days, that's incredible. I mean, really, good on you guys. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay, another comment. So I just got a comment here, and this is from Jerry Dietz. And Jerry says that he'd like to let everybody know that the courts in Lake County are closed until the end of May, and the 3 branch courts are closed until, July 6th. So the 3 branch courts are closed until July 6th. Wow, okay. Scott Jewett, he just sent a link over that says, this site here is where families can get some help if they need. There's going to be a large pop-up pantry at Great America this Sunday from 10 to 1. So I think I'm going to go ahead and open this up to Scott. Scott, if you're okay with this, since you're our Northern Illinois Food Bank person, are you okay with hopping in here for a second? Too bad, we're going to bring him in anyhow. All right, Scott, I just unmuted you. Are you with us?
No, I'm not.
Okay, so I've gone from wanting to put Ann on the spot to wanting to put you on the spot.
Fair enough. I'm among friends. This is good.
Okay. So, well, thank you for participating, and thank you for being called on here at the last second. So you sent the link over. I appreciate that. And then can you kind of give us a little bit of a picture of what's happening for food throughout the county?
My goodness. Well, I guess, well, I think to Don's point, or Dr. Mendoza's point, it's been about 2 months. So overall, all of our agencies have shifted in terms of their distribution model to support social distancing. So all of them are using some sort of pickup model, whether it's a drive-through or it's a walk-up, in order to reduce chances of like vector contact, and using face coverings, masks, that sort of thing. We've been working with the health department to get PPE to our agencies where necessary. Just about all of the agencies all of our food pantries and feeding sites are open. There's a very small amount that are not. And those are actually listed on the site there on our Solve Hunger Today site. A few of them have reduced hours, some have increased hours. Everyone is working really hard and doing the best they can, and actually doing extraordinary work, to Dr. Mendoza's point. Very similar to what a lot of our teachers and all the collaboration is going on to really help the community as best as they can. And what we are doing is so all of our sites in Lake County are seeing if not the same, they're seeing upwards of 20, 40. Some places are seeing 4 times the distribution, the amount of people that they're seeing normally. We don't anticipate that's going to stay that way afterwards, at least in terms of quite those numbers, but we do anticipate increased amount of families needing help when when things go closer to normal, I guess. What questions specifically? I mean, honestly, I could probably rattle on for another 15, 20 minutes, but
We'll mute you, don't worry.
Yeah. Thanks. What sort of questions would you have more specifically?
I just kind of wondered in general how things were, how things were going. You answered that. It's interesting to hear that you're seeing 4 times the volume, and I'm glad to hear that most of the food centers are continuing their service. That is wonderful because it's unfortunate, but we are in that place where a lot of folks in our area do need that. It kind of leads me back over to Greg. So, Greg, when you guys answer calls, are you seeing a need from any residents, like a common need? Is there, are you able to redirect them to a food bank, or are you seeing a need for, and shoot, Greg got muted too. I don't know what keeps happening. All right.
I'm sorry, could you restate your question?
Sure. So Scott was talking about, the Northern Illinois Food Bank. Their sites are seeing roughly 4 times the amount of demand for food at their locations, which makes me think, well, you guys as the fire department, when you're going out on calls, you're getting a very direct connection with residents in their homes. And I wondered if you were seeing any needs that any of our community organizations might be able to help residents with.
Well, I can't say to the fact that we see the needs when we get out there. I do know that Lake County's new 211 system, to call for assistance, they can, you dial 211 and they can guide people to help them with all kinds of problems. Our people are trained on at least what that system can do and how to help people when they get there. To give them, we have cards that they can give out, and if they think there's a problem that maybe we can't help with, but there's a resource out there available for them, we give them the 211 card and brochures so that they can get that information. One thing I can tell you is that we've seen an uptick in calls from people that are having panic attacks, people that are having, they're depressed and having some sort of mental health emergency. We have seen our calls for those, our requests for those types of calls go up. And a lot of times it's just somebody that just needs somebody to talk to. There's a lot of stress out there just for, just walking around. There's a lot of stress. When you have to gear up to go to the grocery store, that causes a lot of stress. And we're seeing a lot of that, not only to the people on the inside of our organization, but on the outside that we're responding to. We're just trying to be as helpful as we can. That's one of the reasons why we are enthusiastically going out and doing the birthday parades and, just trying to do whatever we can to help people at least feel like they have some kind of normalcy, something that they can count on, and something to know that there's somebody out there that can help them. That's what we're trying to be there for. So.
That's awesome. Thanks. Wow. So Don, Greg mentioned, some of the issues that they're running into. Is the school district's health facility, is that up and running over the summer? How does that work for you guys?
So right now it's not accessible. Normally it is. So I'm not sure what it's going to look like over the summer in terms of that. What I would say is Greg talked about mental health. We're seeing issues with that. You got to remember, some of our kids have IEPs and related service for social work, school psychologists, speech therapy, OT and PT, occupational therapy, physical therapy, and the federal government has not relaxed those guidelines at all. And so that has been a significant challenge for us. And I see our director of special ed on, Lisa Mari, so Lisa can wave. But our people are, to the best of their ability, are providing those related services electronically. So we would have a social worker who has a 30-minute session with a student. They get them on Zoom and basically run their session. So we're doing the best we can with that. But we do see the longer this goes, the more we feel like we're going to have to support kids from an emotional, social, and mental health well-being. So.
That's interesting that it's going online. Actually, I did a check-in with my doctor about a week and a half ago, and we did it through Zoom. And he said that the industry is really kind of going that way. A lot of the medical industry is. So, you guys, you know, with the social work and that's heading the same way.
We're actually at the fire department. We're actually in the process now of getting approval from the state and federal government so that we'll actually be able to do telemedicine in the ambulance. Hopefully by the end of the year, an ambulance will pull up and we'll have the equipment in there, and we can connect you with a doctor, maybe communicate with that doctor and help, you know, give us some alternative transport destinations, and just try and make it a little bit more customer oriented for us at the fire department to try and help people get to where they need to go more quickly with as few stops in between. That's hopefully, we hope to have that rolled out by the late fall or early into the 2021. So
it's incredible. Wow. Wow. That's awesome.
Well, sometimes people don't realize that, you know, we can cut a few steps out of that process, and that could save everybody some money, whether it's you paying out of pocket or your insurance company or Medicare or Medicaid or whatever the process is. So we're just trying to, like I said, our goal is to get people where they need to go and where they're going to get the best help as quickly as we can. And sometimes that might just be taking them to their doctor's office. And sometimes it might mean they go to the level 1 trauma center, but we're just trying to be a little more flexible than what we do too.
Well, and I mean, if you're able to get access to a physician while you're still in the ambulance, also the level of care, that's phenomenal that it can increase. So
yeah, and it's better for that person if they, you know, the doctor can say, help us steer that person where they need to go, where they don't need to go.
Jeez.
We actually were in the process of that. We've been in the process for about 10 months trying to get this all done, and you know how things go with regulations, and all of a sudden this hit and everybody's doing this and we're the only ones that can't. But hopefully by the 2021 we'll be able to be on board with it. So.
Jeez. It's been a while since you and I have talked. I'm getting a lot of good new information from you tonight.
It's always changing, just like everything else.
Yeah. So while we were talking, Scott Jewett sent over a note saying, I'm just going to read this off here to make sure I get this correct. He says that some of the places, some of the food centers are seeing 4 times their normal amount, but not all sites are seeing that much, but most sites are definitely seeing an increased need. So I don't want to over dramatize it by saying everyone is. So thank you for the clarification, Scott. Okay, so we are, let's see, we're at 7:50. This is scheduled to go to 8 o'clock. So I think we're coming down the home stretch here. So I'm going to, whoops, there's, just checking to see if there are any other comments coming in also through text. All right, I'm going to put out a last call for questions. Does anybody have any questions before we have our guest do some closing remarks for the evening? We'll wait a couple of minutes for people to type if they're still typing through chat services. One of the recommendations that I got from Ann was to ask around and see if there are if there's interest from our guests and our audience to have another one of these meetings, say in a couple of weeks. We get a real quick show of hands on camera or through chat. All right, Don and Greg say yes. Jerry says yes.
Jim,
Yes.
I would just like to say, I think I've been doing this for 25 years, and I have never seen the first 4 weeks of this, how rapidly everything was changing. I went from on a Thursday afternoon at talking about whether or not we were going to have after school activities to Friday, the entire district was closed, as directed by the state. So I just want to say I'm happy to participate in these whenever you'd like, because I do think the information is changing so rapidly, and I'm grateful for all of the intergovernmental cooperation that we have, because I think in a time like this, it's really about supporting the community. So I'm happy to do these whenever you have them, if I'm available. So
I really appreciate it. Thank you. And I know that, you guys have 7,000 kids in the community, and that's an incredibly high percentage of our population. So, I mean, you are literally in everyone's houses in one form or another, even for those that aren't necessarily, for those that don't necessarily have kids in school because of all of the other services that the school affects. So thank you. I appreciate that. And like you say, you guys within probably a 12 or 24-hour period went from just kind of slowing things down a little bit to totally shutting everything off. So I know how valuable your time is. And also Greg as a first responder. And I know you've got a million things going on too. And all of us do here. I don't want to not recognize anyone, but your time is incredibly important right now. And I know that for everybody who's joining us, it's a stressful time in everybody's life. None of us have seen this. So thank you, Don, too. All right, I'm seeing a couple comments that yes, this seems like a good idea. So thank you for those individuals who have responded. Robin, Jennifer, Julie, and Erica, I appreciate that. And so Don, I think we've got some good remarks from you. Is there anything else you want to add before we head over to ask Greg or Ann for any other comments?
no, just appreciate the opportunity, and on behalf of the school board and the staff, just grateful for everything that everybody on the screen does for the community. So
thank you. All right, Greg, you have the floor, sir.
Well, thank you for putting this together. Sometimes in situations like this, the best thing we can do is just talk and communicate and get information out there, and makes everybody feel better. Everybody's life has been thrown topsy-turvy. When this first started, to Don's point, we would get a recommendation from the Department of Health in the morning. At 8 o'clock, you'd come and find it on your email. At 11 o'clock, they've updated or changed it. And by 4 o'clock, it was outdated and they had another complete procedure in place. And we went, our guy, I feel so bad for our staff. We'd put them out. We were trying to stay as updated as we could. And it was impossible to keep up. We finally got to the point where we were sending out all of the procedures with different colors, so they knew what they had to look at, what had changed and what hadn't changed. We get it. We get that it's a stressful time, and it's a stressful time around my house here without the kids going to school. I have to talk my wife down every day by the time I get in the house and figure out how to get the scanner working in the computer and all these things at home that we never had to worry about before. I guess the only thing that I can say, and I know that I believe, is that at the end of the day, we're going to get through all of this stuff, and we're all going to be in a better place or a different place. And while we're in this, find the little cherries in this thing that you can pick out as something, as a benefit, because that's the only way you're going to make it through. And I know that life is different, but like for us, we take a walk every night, we play outside every night, we do the things that we never had the time to do before, and we probably aren't going to have the time to do again in 6 months. So we're just trying to hang on and like I said, get sent out the other end, and know that we're the fire department and we're here to help however we can. And our only goal is to make people's lives better. However we have to do that, that's what we're going to try and do.
Thank you. Well said. Thank you. Okay, Ann, any closing remarks?
Just to kind of echo what everyone has said here. This is just an amazing time, and it shows how innovative people can be when challenges are thrown our way, and how we've come, even though they call it social distancing, I think it's physical distancing would be a better word for it, because I think socially a lot of people have come together in a way that they didn't before. So I just thank you all for everything you've done and for working through this and working for the community. And we're doing a great job. And I hope we can get together as a group again, because this was a lot of good information that was shared. And hopefully we can get some more people involved and find out what's going on with some other organizations. Maybe we can get the Park District to join us so we can find out what's happening there and some of the different mayors of the area. But thank you all for joining us. And I thought this was great. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and yeah, this was our participants had they had a few days notice, but maybe next time we'll give them more than a few days notice. So thank you for responding to us on short notice. With that said, I'd just like to let everybody know that I appreciate you joining us tonight, whether you're our guest or listening in. We will be having another one of these. I will talk to tonight's speakers offline, and we'll shoot for roughly a couple of weeks down the road. That way it gives everybody a chance to work through some of the new directives that came out today, and look at their internal procedures and see how that will affect the public. And we'll be a couple more weeks in the summer, and maybe we'll get some good grilling recipes and things like that. And keep those grills away from your house. I'll say that on behalf of Greg.
Thank you very much for saying that.
Yes, definitely. So. All right. Thank you very much. Thank you all. Have a wonderful night and a great week. Take care,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Thank
See
you all.
later.
Bye-bye.